today with another of our Arizona drag racing legends, Mr. Curt Wheeler. Many remember Curt from he just raced a lot of different cars and had a great time, and he did a lot with without the big budget, and he should a lot of stuff to be proud of. Curt, it's good to have you here today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Where are you from originally?
Born in Mesa, raised on the west side, Alhambra Grade School, Alhambra High School.
So you were a 602 guy.
Yeah, afraid so.
That's awesome. Who inspired you to get into cars? What would you first?
I wasn't a racer. I was an A student at school, and I was so devoted to school that was everything. So when I was 16, I got into cars and girls. Right away I had a Maverick and started racing it, not on the street.
How did that relate to your grades all of a sudden?
Well, I was like a straight A student first 2 years of high school, and then all of a sudden I got my car and I found out I love going fast. And before I wanted to hot rod it, and I changed the 6-cylinder to a V8, and it just kept going faster and faster. And I was street racing, breaking the law, outrunning the cops. Half the Phoenix police were after me, and I went through a stoplight at 120, and I couldn't stop, and I quit. I said, I got to get a car. So I was with Ray Ewan. I was buying parts from him, and got into.
You went speed on Bethany Home?
Yeah, no, in the early days.
Where was he originally?
Camelback in 37th, in that strip mall,
Okay.
Bilo Market.
Yeah.
And he helped me, and I looked for a car, and I got a little dragster. A guy had for sale, Alan. He wanted $1,500 for it, and I offered him $1,000, my junk motorcycle, and he took it. So, and when I got it, I was like, well, great, I can tell everybody I have a dragster. And I was like, well, now I got to race it. So I wasn't brave, but the neat thing was it came with a fire suit, and I got a mask. And I was really shy. So behind the mask, I could be anybody. And that's why I became so diligent at going fast and wild and everything else in that car. And I didn't have any money. My God, I mean, the first 7 years I had a open little trailer I bought from Jim Barker for $300. I towed it with my Maverick. It was a 12, 13 second car.
What year was this?
This is 76.
Okay.
And it was, I was poor, but that car,
I don't think you've ever been poor. You may have been broke, but you've never been poor.
Yeah,
You're a good guy.
I made money throughout my life,
okay,
but
there
in
you go.
those days, I worked at Bilo Market, and I didn't have the money to.
Young
that
man
other
with a
guys.
dream.
Yeah, that was it. I loved going fast and was determined. And like first 7 years, the new parts I bought was a front aircraft starter, a converter, and collector headers, and then I bought a Linko for my altar. And those are the really new parts besides maintenance. And I ran that little 283 in that dragster and got it running 9.0s at 150. And it took 1,500 feet to go a quarter mile.
I remember the car.
In the right lane, it ran the center line always. And in the left lane, it was on the guardrail, and it was up in the air all the time. I shifted in the air and drove it. And it was really a good teacher because it taught me how to drive real well.
Who helped you with that car? Who was anybody give you a mentor or help you, give you some advice?
Well, Ray did it first, and then once I got it going, Gene Fiore and myself ran the car.
Mr. Maverick.
Yeah, Mr. Maverick. And because we met on Central cruising, and we became friends, and we just always been together. Even today, we have lunch together once a week. So he helped me a lot, and we would race that car and take it around at Tucson, Beeline, Phoenix, and it was really good. And then I left for Ewan, I went to Goosey, they sponsored me, and then I went to your shop, Performance Plus, you sponsored me. So those are really my only sponsors besides with the fuel altar, I had my pipe fitters hall sponsored me.
So you had the dragster.
Yeah.
And then you wanted to go quicker.
Oh yeah, I could never go fast enough. I'm wild enough.
So tell us step us into the transition to the altar.
I went into the altar. It was it was Roney and Day's car with the Vega body and the T-bucket that came way up and you only saw your goggles. And I loved that car because I was hid and I was shy, so I didn't want to be seen. I wanted that mask because then I could drive like whoever, like a stuntman, whatever. I could drive like all the professionals. And I just kept going faster and faster, and then I ended up selling that car. I won the last race at Beeline with that B Fuel Alter. That was an amazing little car.
It was running real good.
Yeah, it ran good. It would run like 1050s, but 170. You know, because I had these big AA funny car slicks, and it couldn't pull them because of that small block. But mile an hour, oh, it was a hoot. I was loving it.
So a mile an hour of a car that should have run in the eights was.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
didn't have any money to buy tires. You know, I couldn't buy a smaller set,
Yeah.
so I had to run. And then I got Paul Smith's entertainer car, Monza, that everybody crashed and barbecued in. And then by then, Tom Livengood, who started helping me, and Gene went off and did his thing with his Maverick, and Tom started helping me, and it was really really great, you know, because I'd go to Goose's then, and I would walk into their shop on 35th, and Tom's engine was sitting in there. It was a 64 top fuel engine. I'd sit behind it and go, oh my God, I'd love to be behind this engine. I love this. This would be. Every time I went there, I'd walk behind it and sit there. Well, we ran that Monza, had a 392 Hemi in it on alcohol, and it ran really well, and we were running well with it. And then opening day of Firebird went out there to run alcohol funny car, and you know, I was a low buck. This time it's in the mid 80s. Everybody's running KBs and flying, and I'm out there at 392. And
But you were there.
yeah, so I go out there in the first pass. We had a problem setting up the clutch, but it didn't leave hard. I was mad. I crossed my arms and put the steering wheel between my knees and shifted and drove the whole thing. Well, I went through the lights at about 170, disgusted. I go to pull the chute and the throttle was bound. I broke the linkage like every car. Every car I broke the linkage until Tom finally gave me a good one that I couldn't break. And I couldn't stop the car. The chute didn't open. A guy on my crew oiled my brake pads. I couldn't stop the car. And I was thinking, okay, I'm going to Grandma's house. So I'm going off the end of the track, and I look up, and here's a chain link fence. And I said, who in the hell puts a chain link fence at the end of a drag strip? And I've gone off every drag strip. I always left the track because none of my cars had brakes.
What's the last thing you need to buy?
I mean, I drove one time with no brakes, 0 at 150. I mean, my crew staged me. I didn't even do a burnout because I went down the track. And I still went through, and I went, like I said, off the end of the track. Well, I hit that fence and laid down about 8 sections. And the first thing, I'm laying on the side on a berm, and I'm thinking, you know what, I think I qualified. If I can duct tape this front end and the damage, I could run. And the crew comes up to me, and they're going, Curt, you're all right. I said, yeah, I'm fine. Can I tape it? And they go, tape it? Yeah, duct tape it. I qualified. And he said, Curt, this car's destroyed. And I said, oh man, my ribs hurt now. Thanks.
The adrenaline went away.
I cracked these 2 ribs from the impact.
What was the name of that car?
Well, that's what it did. Tom's daughter came up and said, Curt, that must have been a sudden impact. And I looked at Tom and smiled. And up till that point, we didn't have a name. And we smiled and said, well, thanks for naming our car. And that's how Sudden Impact came. And then Clint Eastwood's movie came out about 6 months later. But of course, we're poor. We didn't trademark it or anything. So we were the first Sudden Impact car. And then I sold that car, and I moved up to building my funny car. And Eddie DeLarme in Tucson built my chassis. And it was his first funny car, and it was a bad design. It was an old style from the 70s for the late 80s. So I'm already behind it again. So Tom says, let's put my Hemi in it. So we took a 64 top fuel engine and put it into this car. And Tom could really tune it. He did a great job of setting it up. And I had horsepower, and it was something else. It left hard. I was running 6s at mid 230, 220s.
Yeah, I remember
It
you
was
stepped
fast.
up.
It was fun to drive. And we were having to run all late models. So we went down to the Winter Nationals. I just got my license, and the whole meantime of racing, I never crossed the center line. I was on the center line a foot away or 6 inches, but I never crossed it. Every pass was like that. But then when I was getting my license at Firebird, I was on a dynamite run to get the license. I knew I had it, and I was going along and changed lanes at 230. And I went and got a mile an hour of 230. And I was like, no ET, and they told me I did get my license. So I had to come back again. So when we got the license, the Winter Nationals are coming. So we decided we're gonna run nitro funny car. I had a fuel alter license, and I was so proud of that, because that fit me. I was a fuel alter driver. And we go down there to run, there's 26 nitro cars, and it's the best in the country. And we're in line, and the crew's all excited and wondering who I'm gonna pair up with. And Prudhomme comes up, and I'm thinking, are you kidding me? So I have to run it in the time trial. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And he had #1 on his Pepsi car. So I'm thinking, oh great. So we get out there and I talked to him and he dished me, and I was, I'm not gonna be in your lane, I'm gonna do a good job. And he was a jerk and walked away. So Richard comes up to me, one of my crew members, Curt, what did Prudhomme say? I said, he's gonna get our car in the side of his. That's what he's gonna get. I said, that was wrong, man. So we get out there, and the whole time I'm thinking, how am I gonna drive this car against him? Because I always drove one hand on the brake, one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the brake, because that's how I had to drive that Hemi. Otherwise, it would change lanes. That car did not handle. So I decided I'm gonna come off with 2 hands. Mistake. It went right to the guardrail. I pulled the brake, mashed the throttle, it shifted, put it in the air. It just went in the air and set down. I pulled on the brake super hard. It set right next to the center line, and I hauled ass after it. And I could see smoke coming off his tires, and I blew by him and passed him and qualified 16th in the middle of the day. So that whole day we waited till the last round. And there were 12 cars ready to run out of the 26. And we're still sitting 16th, and I'm amazed at it. So we're in line thinking, okay, I'm gonna run him, and Sherm Gunn pulls up last. He was 18th. And I said, oh man, he's gonna run fast. He runs good, so I've got to run. Well, we put 92 in the tank. Tom built a girdle to hold the mains in. It was an incredible engine. It was such an over engine. It shouldn't have ran what it did. And we're out there running. Sure enough, nobody beat me. I was still sitting 16th, and we were going. And the third chirp on the last, I heard a clunk, and I go, "Oh shit! Stage the car, Curt." And I lit the bulbs, and I saw some fire. And I said, oh, what the hell, we're going. I don't care if this burns all the way down the track, I'm going. And as I lit the other bulb, I could see fire coming out the injector around the blower. And I'm going, oh, great. And I look in the windows, and it's all fire. And I'm going, great. And when my red light comes down, he takes off, and his cruise is static. So he bumped me. And they pushed me back, and as they're pushing me back after they got the fire out, there's a piston laying out there. I go, oh man, I got a set of those in my engine. What's that one doing out there? And the motor was still running, unbelievable. It didn't miss a beat, it just clunked. And the piston, I would still file it and would have ran it if I had to. I mean, that's how poor I was.
Mike Hilsebeck has some.
Yeah, we were close.
Yeah, Mike
we
talks a lot. Yeah.
In '76, we became friends. So Mike and I have been together a long time.
Yeah. Mike's a good guy.
Yeah, he really is. He had a lot more knowledge and more better people.
Well, you guys both did a lot with very little.
Very little. I had less than Mike.
Yeah.
But I got all hand-me-down parts. I hardly had anything.
Hey, you were there racing.
But what was so funny, the fuel alter, we'd race out of town. And I never lost a round. I never lost a race. Every one against all these late models, I'd beat. And it was hilarious. We'd go to Firebird, run jets, funny cars, whatever. I sucked. It was so frustrating. I just could never win. And my little dragster, going back to that, was an overachiever. At the Winter Nationals, I drew all world champions and put them all on the trailer. It was just
It's
unbelievable.
consistency, you know,
But consistent,
the
wild.
altered,
That's what it
you know,
was.
the one thing I learned about racing alters was doesn't mean anything if you're the quick car because they still have to get down the track and sometimes they can't. You can.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about what you do.
That was the deal. Driving the car one-handed and working the brake all the time allowed me to leave full throttle and then take it out because the ass end always wanted to pass. I was always looking at a guy in the other lane.
So when was your last race?
In '87, Lubbock, Texas, I met a Shyster promoter. He wanted me for my fire burnouts, and we were going to run Jeff Bennett, and we were going to run 10 races, and I was going to get 25% of the gate. Same for Jeff. And this is my big payday. I'm going to make out, because I was packing them in for fire burnouts because everybody wanted to see a human sacrifice,
Right.
or a weenie roast, because it was going to be a.
Did any jury ever write you a letter about that?
Nah, I ran outlaw
Oh
tracks.
yes. Well, I remember Joe Iverson had done that with his dragster, and he got a big old nasty gram from any jury.
I barbecued all the time. Sometimes I had to put my fire out, because I was engulfed so bad. So we get there, and there's no people. He can't pay me any money. He was a shyster and paid me $250 to show up. And I was pissed. Jeff loaded he didn't even unload his car. He just left. Well, I said, we just put the late model in. At that time, I had a good match racing summer with the Iron Hemi. So I made a lot of money, and my uncle that loved racing gave me 10 grand, said, go beat the mob. He hated the mob, so he said, go beat the mob. So I said, okay. I wanted a Donovan, but he said, go late model. So we put this late model in. It was John Force's 86 engine in our 87 car. And John helped me a bunch. He was a good guy. He hadn't won one race back then. And here he was giving me tons of stuff. And we go there, and this car won't even stay on the jack stands. And I'm thinking to myself, oh man, this is going to be it. This engine's going to get me. Because that's what it was all about, was the ride. And we go out, and I say, I'm only going to do a burnout, see what it's doing. I go to do a light burnout, and I lift, and my Linko vaporizes between my legs. And this is the old style Linko that I bought in the '79, so it was only good for like 1,200 horses. So no way was Force's motor going to make this thing live. So we pulled over and it hammered everything. And then at that time, my dad died. I started a new job from a pipe fitter welder to a mailman, put paper in metal boxes, made no sense for me coming from a craftsman. And I was getting divorced, and I wanted custody of my kids, and nobody was going to give them to me, no judge, traveling around the country. So I quit racing, and it was really hard because I loved it.
You did the right thing, though.
Yeah, I did. I lost in court. But
Yeah, but you still, your heart was there. You wanted to try to do the right thing.
yeah, so it ended, and then in the mid-2000s, I came back with blowing alcohol cars. But the rush wasn't there. Once you drive nitro, you just can't go back. It's so awesome. It's just so fun. And
Driving between the flames.
I had two good cars, my Fiat, which Ed Middlebrook has. And then I had a front engine dragster. I always drove front engines, and it was a beautiful blue 200 inch. I put a KB in it, 14, ran 7 O's at 200, and I loved it. On my last pass, I don't know why I did this. On the turtle deck, I put Into the Gates of Hell and had this mural of the devil standing over the gates, and they're starting to open, and a graveyard on each side, and the woman imposed the dragster up in the air sideways with the flames looking like angel wings, and it was like the ultimate confrontation. Well, on that run, 70200, I pulled the chute and I saw the sky. I left the track totally. The car went airborne. I was on that long wheelie bar, came down, bounced, turned, slammed me against the cage, and I'm headed right toward the wall. And I go, Duke's a hazard, because it was on its side, and I flopped the wheel, and it turned, went right back down. I went, son of a bee. So I cranked the wheel, and it slid right over and bumped the wall. And I was laughing my ass off, because I thought, I didn't do that. How in the hell did that car slide over? So I'm bouncing by the safety crew, And I'm shaking, laughing, shaking my head, throwing my belts off, and I'm still bunny hopping, probably at 80, I don't know. I was booking still. And I get around the corner, and he comes up to me, and he says, I saw the bottom of that car. Why isn't this destroyed? And I said, man, I waited 35 years for that pass.
You stuck the landing.
I did. It was beautiful. And he says, I said, really? And I said, yeah, 35 years. And I said, I think that's my last pass. And he's looking at the mural, and he says, man, you do this all the time. And I said, no, it never did it. He says, well, how did you know it was going to do that? And I said, I don't know. I'm retiring.
It's time to step down.
And he goes to me, he says, scared you that bad? And I said, but I wasn't scared. I'm a fuel altar driver. And he laughed, and that was it. That was my last pass.
So, yeah, you're done with that. What did you do to replace, what have you done since that for the adrenaline?
Well, it was, when I quit the first time, I bought a Harley and rode off. Rode 100,000 miles on an outlaw biker bike.
Okay.
And I went deep in the biker world, and that's another story. We could do hours on that. So then I quit and cut my hair because it was halfway down my back, and got into airplanes. I quit, I got into airplanes, and I started building, and I loved it. And I thought, this would be great.
We're not talking about model airplanes.
No, we're talking about the ones that fly.
Right.
That way I could be the first one at the scene of the crash.
Right, that's right.
So this was
a
perfect way to go for me. So, because I couldn't do it in racing. I tried a lot, but it couldn't succeed. And so I bought and sold and delivered airplanes. And then I started restoring a Maverick, my first car. Maverick was my first car. So Gene and I are back with our Mavericks. He still has his. And so it's kind of funny. I went this full circle in life. And
you're happy.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I have really good memories because I laughed my ass off.
So you're not as shy anymore?
No, that was a major drawback. I can remember out of Firebird, people were all in my pits, 10 deep, wanting my autograph, and I was like, what for? I was a has-been that never was,
Oh, but you were humble as well.
Yeah,
not as shy, but you were humble.
Yeah, and I couldn't deal with the people. And Tom would throw me out the trailer, say, get out there and sign autographs, And I was signing everything on girls. It was a lot of fun.
And you come, okay, well, that's another, that goes
That's
along with
why
the
my
biker
wife
side.
doesn't want me to go back. That's why I didn't build an
We'll film another episode about the biker and the autograph sections, okay?
Yeah, that'll be another one.
Kurt,
that'll be a divorce.
It's great to it's great to see you, man. It's been a lot of years and
a
lot of great memories, and
you
certainly your racing was legendary, to say the least, and you are definitely an Arizona drag racing legend.
Thank you.
And it's good to see you're alive and kicking and doing well, and you still have that great smile. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun.